All right, good morning. Today is Jack, this is your favorite. Ayin Tess.
It's Tessie.
Tessie, Eileen, one of them was the wrong, right? All right.
She's an old bad.
Yeah. So we are on let me sit. Got it. All right, so we are on Daf. Today's Ayin Tess. So we got to the mission on the bottom of Ayin Chesed base. And away we go. So a person gave permission to a shaliach to go ahead and to betroth his daughter to somebody else. So that happened, let's say, at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then he went off. So the father sent the messenger, and then at noon, the father bumped into a nice young man and says, "You know what? Why don't you marry my daughter?" If the fathers came first, and it was when the actual kedushin came, then kedushin, then kedushin. And if the shaliach happened to do it before noon, he did it at 11 o'clock, then the shaliach, then kedushin, then the shaliach's kedushin was chal. But we don't know who was makadesh first, either his shaliach or he himself, or the fathers. Shneim nice and get, then she could be married to either one, and therefore she's required to get from either one. And if, let's say, one of them wants to remain her husband, then what to do is nice and get, and the other one gives the get, and the person goes ahead and is re-Makadisher, right? Why is he re-Makadisher? It could be that that guy was initially the first guy, and the first kedushin is good, and therefore it doesn't hurt to be Makadisher again. But the other worry is that perhaps the other guy was first, and therefore she just got to get now, because the first time he proposed, she was already a married woman and didn't work. So that's why you give the get now again, and then she's re-Makadish, she wants to stay. What does it have to do with the Sariyuch?
Going back to the previous trucking kind of cases.
Well, let me just need the next 1 second. So kedushin, I think, because the next mission is also out there, right? Yeah. Oh, actually, the next case is more have to do with that. This is, I guess, maybe Safek kedushin, but I hear. All right, let's see the Gemara. Now, the next case, identical case of the opposite. Now, isha. So to a woman, she gave permission at 9 o'clock in the morning to a shaliach. L'kadsha, go ahead and find a man for me and receive my kedushin. Then she bumped into somebody at noon. She herself, not the shaliach, and she suitable match and accepted kedushin. So if she accepted hers at 12 o'clock. And her shaliach only did later on at 3 p.m. Then kedushin, then her kedushin works because she accepted it first. But if her shaliach received it received the kedushin of her at 11 a.m., then kedushin, then her shaliach's kedushin was worked. If we don't know which one came first, then shneim nice get, then she could be either man, and therefore we say, you know what, each one give a get. And if one of them says, hey, I really want to be married to you, and she says, I want to be married to you, not him, so then what you do is the other one is echad nice and get, the other one gives a get, and then the other one goes ahead and once again gets remarried to that person.
Why do we need both these cases?
So why do we know these cases? Gemara is going to ask that question. That's the Gemara's initial question. But identical case of whether he does it or she does it. Now, yeah. Machzir Gushaso is only from the Suin. Yeah.
So we're not worried that one of the
right, but over here, but once again, she was never, in other words, no, she would never go back. She can't be married to both those men in the beginning, right? Only one of them was the true husband. We don't know who. So if one of them gets a divorce, so either the one that I gave a divorce, let's say one gave a divorce, one married. Both of them a divorce, that's fine, right? So if one gave a divorce and one remarried her. So if the one that gave the divorce was actually married to her before, so she's married man A, divorced her man A, and that is now married to man B, right? If she was married to man B first and man A gave her a get, well, that get is really nothing, right? No harm, no foul, because she was never married to that guy. Right. And now with B, she just reaccepts her kedushin, but it's also no harm, no foul.
They got a get,
Right.
It's not so-
And not only that, the Kedushin really doesn't mean anything really because she was in essence really married to that guy first, if that was the truth, right? Fine. Let's look at the Gemara. Right, the only difference will come out later on if we find out the truth, whether she's considered to be a grusha from Erison from before. Right. So let's look at the Gemara. With Tzricha, why do we need both cases? As Adi, so Diashmin and Gabi Dide, if it's just maybe by him, Mishum de Gabra Kimle Biyuchsa, right? Maybe over there, we say like this. The reason why someone would appoint a shaliach is, go ahead and find me a suitable match. I'm not so good with the yichus. So you go ahead, you're a man, right? You guys look better into the yichus. So you look into the yichus. The Yeshmin and Gabi Dide, Mishum de Gabra Kimle Biyuchsa. Ava Isasa, the like Kimle Biyuchsan. But the woman who's not necessarily so good with yichus, Ema, she would say, if my shaliach went ahead to find somebody, right? And even though I was Makadesh myself first, but I didn't know he was going to, his person would have been better than mine. So I'm only doing it because maybe he won't find anybody. At least I found somebody. So maybe you might think that she still wants to go with the shaliach and she doesn't want to be mevatel or shlichus, right? But he's still like Kimla biyutzin. Ema love the avi kedusha, kedusha. Maybe I'd say her kedusha is not kedusha. So therefore, we have in that case. V'yashmin and Gabi Dida, and if we just have the case by her mission, daika mitzvah, right? Because a woman maybe looks into and checks into the matter about you, but over here, right? When it's him to go ahead and marry, maybe he doesn't care as much, and maybe he doesn't care as much. So therefore, it's therefore we need both these cases. Now, Itamar. Kidsha Avia. Now we're going to enter the today's subject. Now, Itamar. Kidsha Aviha B'derech. So her father, right? Her father who has the authority to go ahead and marry his daughter. So Kidsha Avia B'derech, right? So he went ahead and it was Makadesh on the road before he was coming back, and the Kidsha Atzma Be'ir, and she was Makadesh herself. He bogeris, and now she checked for physical signs, and it turns out she's a bogeris. All right, now normally a bogeris is somebody who is by the age of 12 and a half and has physical signs of maturity. So let's see what this means. He bogeris. Now it is possible, right?
That means the father's kedusha was nothing.
If
he doesn't have the reshus at that point.
Well, right. So now she did it in the afternoon. She got married herself in the afternoon, and then she checked, and she had the simani bagrus in the afternoon. So the question is going to be, Rav Omar Harehi Bogeris. Well, like Eddie says, Rav says, hey, look, she checked, she's a Bogeris, therefore she must have been a Bogeris all day. Therefore, when the father received her kedushin, right, he didn't have the authority to do so, right? He only has authority if she's a Nara or a Katana. Shmuel Amar Chayishinan lekedushay shneya. Now, why? Perhaps just now, when she checked to be her siman to be a Bulgaris, her physical signs of maturity, only now did she have those physical signs. But maybe in the morning, when the father was makabel kedushin for her, maybe she didn't have the simani the bagras then. So the Gemara is going to question this for a second. Let me just make a shackle.
Amen. Wow, Rebbe.
Now, so the Gemara says, Amos. Now,
40 next week.
Yeah. Now, how old? Now, speaking of age, so how old is this girl? If we're talking about this girl, she checked in the afternoon, she has simani bagras, and she's, let's say, within the 6 months between 12 and 12 and a half and 12 and a half. So Rav says what? She's been a Bageris the entire time. Hashnu with the Bagra. Maybe now, in other words, there are certain simanim where a woman doesn't have to wait till the age of 12 and a half to be a Bageris, right? If they have certain physical features more than the standard, so then there would be even Bageris before. So how could you say that she has something out of the ordinary because she found out in the afternoon, and therefore she maybe was even a Bageris even before the 12 and a half months, right? Well, you can't say that. Ella liachashisha must be okay. So we'll say it must be after she's 12 and a half. So right? On this, Shmuel will say that perhaps she wasn't a Bulgaris in the morning. Shmuel, right? You can't say she was older than 12 and a half because Bulgaris, Nara only goes till 12 and a half. If she's after 12 and a half, she's automatically a Bulgaris. So Gemara says, okay, what is the scenario talking about? We're talking about the day of her 12th and a half birthday. Rav says she's a Bulgaris. No, she checks right now in the afternoon at 3 p.m. She's a Bulgaris. So the hash Bulgaris, Bulgaris. By the fact that she's now a Bulgaris at 3 p.m., she must have also had the physical signs in the morning, right, at 9 a.m. before her father accepted her kedushin at 10 a.m. Shmuel Amar hash to the icy simanim. Only now she's bringing the simanim, so we don't know about this morning. So therefore, this morning is a suffix whether she was her own person or not, and therefore suffix that her father might have married her off. Fine.
Not close enough. I thought like you told the other.
Well, usually, let's say,
plus one.
well, like a bar mitzvah, right? A bar mitzvah could be the day.
Plus one in the same.
No, so it's the right. So by a bar mitzvah, it's the day you're born, because the day you're born is actually considered to be a year plus a day. Right. So because the last day. So I guess over here, whatever the 12 and a half, I guess is. So it could be, maybe the 30 days. Either it's the last day, right? Right.
Everything else is said plus.
Right. It says 9 years in a day for a boy. Right. I hear. Yeah. All right. It's a good question. All right. Fine.
That's because you don't know what it is. Just saying.
Ushmuel. Now, so that was the machlokes. Now, Ushmuel, ma'ishnam mikvah. So Shmuel. Now, remember, Shmuel was the one who said that maybe the change just happened now, but this morning things were different. All right, the change just happened now. That's Shmuel's shita. Change just happened now. Let's see it. So ma'ishnam mikvah. What's the difference between the case of a mikvah? The tower that in the Mishnah mikvah shenim davenin chaser. So they had a mikvah. It was known to be fine. All of a sudden, they put a bunch of things in the mikvah to be matahir them, and they wanted to check how much water was in the mikvah in the afternoon, and it was chaser. So kol tahara shenasu agaba of lemafreya beinushis yachad beinushis arab and tmeim. So we'll say, no. He doesn't have to be in there, right? So right for the last time we checked. Also, they did it now. So any taharas, right, going backwards are vade tamei. It doesn't work. Right now, what does that mean? Remember, Shmuel says it might have just changed now, right? She might have just become a Bulgaris now, and therefore her father's condition was good. So why did you say the same thing about the mikvah? The mikvah might have just become chaser now, but everything before this was okay because till now we only knew the other way.
Well, isn't this a focus also?
In this case,
in the case of the mikvah.
Well, so
we say going forward.
So going forward for sure is not good,
yeah, that's right.
The
but
question
everything from before we could say.
Well, no, so machlokes, right? So it says, let's see,
Which chazaka do we go by?
So let's see, right? So
do we go by the chazaka of the mikvah, or do we go by the chazaka of the people who were matahir or the kelim that were matahir?
Right. So the Gemara is getting into that, right? So also the question is, even on that, there's two different chazakas, right? The Gemara says you're sort of hitting to the tears of the Gemara, but part also is like this: there's a chazaka that the mikvah was good, right? Because I checked it last week. The mikvah was fine last week. So unless I know otherwise, it's good. And I checked it now, it's bad. So there's no reason why 10 minutes ago it also wasn't bad, right? So there's chesed the hashta and chesed mikara. Right? Do we go by that chazaka or this chazaka? So that was the initial question. Gemara says no. Shani Hasan the ikal amemer having tamei achas kasa. Say it's different since the items we put in the mikvah were known to be tamei. So therefore, that chazaka stands. And therefore we'll say it didn't tell us. So it says adrabah mikvah chaskaso. Right? The mikvah is a chazaka. This morning, before I checked it, it was known to be good. Right, and then therefore we'll say it wasn't missing anything. How can you say it was missing? So he says, Hakanami, Hare Bulgaris of an So to over here, by the case of the girl, she's a Bulgaris now, right? So she's Bulgaris now, she was Bulgaris this morning. So hashtu the bagra. So no, Shmuel say no. Only now she became a begaris. So it says no. Hasam nami hashtu the chaser. Say over there that only now it became chaser. Therefore, all the mikvahs should be tahara. So it says no. Hasam tahara to the reyusa. Over there, there's two chazakas, right? There's two chazakas over there. There's the chazaka that the item itself is tamei. And there's also a chazaka that this measuring, this mikvah right now, it's chaser. Hacha, but in our case, there's only chada. There's only one, l'reyusa, right? Only there's one case over here that, now she's a bogeris, so therefore, but there's not two, and therefore we'll say this case is a suffix that even that perhaps only had happened now. So that was question number one. Now ask a similar question. Shmuel, ma'ishna b'chavis. What about the case of a barrel? The Tanya we learned in a braysa. Now, a person used to go ahead and separate his truma to go ahead and leave the kohanim and say, okay, that barrel is going to be designated for truma. So he's able to go ahead and basically that barrel will basically be 2%, of his usable wine. So every time he drinks some wine, he'll say, okay, another 10 ounces in that barrel will be designated for truma. So, and let's say he checks it every week, every Sunday, he checks it, right? And all of a sudden he checks the next Sunday and it turns out it's vinegar. You can't go ahead and separate vinegar to be your truma. So now, last Sunday there was wine. This Sunday, it's no good. So when did it go bad? So when do we say that that I can't from that which I took I can't drink? So we say kol gimel yamim vadai. So we said the first 3 days after the last time I checked, it's good because it will take longer. However, after that initial 3 days until now, suffix, we say suffix. And before we get to our question of Shmuel, over there when we brought that case of the barrel, the Raminan, we asked the case of the chavis amikvah with the case of the mikvah. Maishna, the hacha vadai. Why over here do we say? Right, that this over here is a vadai. The suffix. In the case of the mikvah, we'll say everything is vadai tamei, and in the case of the wine, we'll say after the first 3 days, suffix it was vinegar, suffix it was wine. The Amar Rav Chanina Masuria. So man tana chavis. So who's the one who taught the case of the barrel where is a suffix? That is Rabbi Shimon. That's the opinion of Rabbi Shimon. And the Gabi Mikvah Nami Sveika Mashrin. Even in the case of the Mikvah, he also actually held differently. The Tani Lunar Brisa Kol Taharshin also Agabov Lemafreya. So this is Eddie the Brisa that you're referring to. So any taharos that were made Lemafreya Bein Rishus Yachad Bein Rishus Rabbin Tameos. Right. That those are all Tamei. Like we saw the previous shita of the Rabbanan. Rabbi Shimon who says in our case of the Chavis was a suffix. Rabbi Shimon Rishus Rabbim Taharos. If it was done in Rishus Rabbim, i.e., because suffix Rishus Rabbim, as we learned from Sota, right? Sota, we say suffix is Tamei, but that because she was secluded in a private area. So we learned from there that anything that's done in Rishus Rabbim is Tahara. So Rabbi Shimon says it's a suffix. So we say anything, if it was done in the Rishus Rabbim, then Taharos. Rishus Yachid, then Tailin. Then we say that it's Tameya, right? That it's a suffix that we don't know. Aval Rabbanan. According to the Rabbanan, Tevel Mafreya. But we say according to, that was Rabbi Shimon, but according to the Rabbanan, then we say it's all Tevel going backwards to the Sunday before. It was never good. Anything that was separated truma, it didn't become vinegar on right. In that case of the chavis, it didn't become vinegar on the Kohen's watch. It became vinegar on the landowner's watch, and therefore we'll say his items are tevel and not fixed. So why over there is a body? So it says Shani Hasan Ikalamemar having tevel chaskaso. So you say, it's a chazaka. Since right now, right, it's no good. So it's over there. And therefore we'll say that it was never, since it's vinegar now, we'll say it was never fixed. Well, we checked last Sunday, we'll say that the wine is chazkasav, and we'll say it did not become chametz. But it's vinegar. You can't say it didn't change the vinegar because we see it's vinegar now. So too, Shmuel will say, okay, well, if that's the case, she's a Bulgaris now. She should have been a Bulgaris in the morning, Shmuel. So why do you say that maybe she wasn't a Bulgaris, right? Hashtu the Bagra, right? It's only now. So Nami Hashtu the Ichmitz will say also now. Well, it became vinegar. So Hadsam Tarti la Riyusa. Over here is only one suffix, right? When did she become a Bulgaris? Well, over there, there's two things, right? Over there, that it was known that the items were Tevel first, right? And it wasn't fixed. And second of all, it's vinegar now, right? So it's vinegar now. So therefore, you have that chazaka and there was tevel first. Those two combined, we say that it's considered to be tevel and not fixed. But in the case, and therefore it goes back to the original. But in the case of the Bogeres, maybe it only, since only one chazaka, maybe it only changed now. Aha. Now, Hudiga. So Nema Kitanoi. Let's say there's actually Machlokas tonight. We'll see why we brought this in. So Nema Kitanoi. Turn the page. So let's say Machlokas tonight. So me might see me add me. So let's say you have a case, right? So let's say you have a case of somebody who's l'chayra. He's definitely ill. He's a shkimera. He's giving away all of his assets as gifts before he dies. So me might, and then all of a sudden he gets better. He gets better. So okay, guys, gotta give it back, please. Hand back me my watch and so on and so forth. So me might see me add me. So who might see me adam? B'loy v'hein a might see miyada b'loy raya. Diva Rabbi Yaakov says Rabbi Yaakov. So the giver can go ahead and take it back without any proof that he was sick, and they can't take it from him unless they can prove that he was healthy. And Reb Nassan Aimer in Barihu alav lavi raya. If he right now he is healthy, then it's upon him to bring a proof. And that he was a shkimera earlier. And if right now he's definitely ill, then then they have to go ahead and bring proof that he was that he was healthy. So name a Rav Damar Reb Nassan. So let's say Rav Holag Reb Nassan. In other words, that whatever we find now, we assume to be the case. In other words, since we find her to be a bogeres. Right now, she was a bogeres in the morning, therefore the father's kedushin is nothing. So it's over here. If the guy says, I want it back, right, and he's a shkimera, so we believe he was a shkimera the whole time. So whatever the status is now, we believe it the whole time. And Shmuel will say that, no, maybe things changed. Rabbi Yaakov will say like Rabbi Yaakov. Not consider Rabbi Yaakov, who says that they need proof. So I'd kind of like Rabbi Yaakov Hasam. The reason why the burden of proof is on them to prove that he was healthy is because the money was in his account first, right? And he's the one giving away. So you want to go ahead and take it from him and say it was given to you as a gift. You have to go ahead and bring proof. But over here, when it comes to the Bogeres, who says today is the day she turned 12 and a half? Who said there's a chazaka, right? That before that, that she shouldn't have shown signs of maturity. Shmuel would say, I can say like Reb Nassan, who holds that whatever the status is now, right, that's the status the whole time. And Shmuel, the kuliyama b'ches is bring timing because everyone is a chazaka that they're healthy. And man to come mapik nafshe mechazaka. All right, have you right? But someone who's going to go ahead and say, "Hey, I was deathly ill." Okay, now you got to prove that you were a little different. We need to see your doctor's note. Right, but over here, who says that right that they have to go ahead and disprove that the chazaka that she's not supposed to change. And the Gemara has one more suggestion. Name al kahani tonight. Let's say this case of Rav and Shmuel about arguing whether she's found to be bogeres now. Rav says, no, she must have been a bogeres all day, and therefore her father's kedushin is nothing. And Shmuel says something, maybe she was a bogeres in the morning, which means her kedushin from her father was nothing, or maybe she just became a bogeres now, and the father's kedushin was good. So let's say Kani tonight. So Kicha via B'derech, the Kicha had some Ba'ir. So if her father went ahead and accepted her kedushin and she's Kacha Asa Ba'ir. Ba'arei he bogeres. Right, and she's a bogeres. So Tanya Chada Hari bogeres. So one price says it's explicitly our case that she's bogeres. Lefanena, but Tanya Yidach another price that says Chayishina the Kedushi Shneim. This is like Shmuel. So my lav Chad Karav Chad Kishmuel. So it says lo Idi Kishmuel. Maybe they're both like Shmuel. That maybe her body changed just now and not the morning, right? So if that's the case, if your body changed just now. Then why does one Bryce say that in the morning, right? That it was vadai that her father's kedusha was vadai nothing, right? It's like right. One of the case where she argued, right, and she says that no, I didn't become just now. I was a bogeres in the morning. She admitted, right, that in other words that she admitted that she was right, that she was not a Bogeris in the morning, if she admitted to the father she's not a Bogeris in the morning, that her father's kedushin would have been good, right? And therefore, that was the case. That was the brisa that said that he accepted kedushin. The other one is the case where she didn't know, right? She didn't say I was not, right? She didn't say I was or I was not. She didn't disagree with the father, and therefore, maybe the father's kedushin was not good because maybe she was a Bogeris, but she didn't argue and say she wasn't. So therefore, that's reason to brises.
How can say that she doesn't want the marriage?
I don't know.
Her father can accept kedushin without her rishus.
And she has to go through it, isn't there a thing that she has to still accept?
Um,
And then they have meeting or whatever it's called.
Right. So the mean is only by dirabanan when it's done by the mother and the brother, right?
Yeah,
The mother or his brother, right? So that's because that's only dirabanan. Therefore, she had to re-accept it later on. But over here, right, there's a whole thing with the by to a shlim or to a mukishlim, right? To someone,
This is about this is, forcing her to do it. Because
Right.
Otherwise, she would just say, I don't want it.
right?
When you're
So
finished,
right, so the kesef kedushin is right. So the kesef kedushin is cha. So the Gemara says now, because we suggested that, okay, no, really they're not arguing the case of Rav and Shmuel. Just one's the case where she agreed. And I was like, she disagreed. I've been able to snisa like by the fact you just said the two brises, the seem to be the exact same machlekes. It's not an argument. I'm right now like pligi. Maybe Rav and Shmuel also don't argue. The Gemara says, but you say Rav and Shmuel didn't argue. Ha, Rav Yosef braid the Rav Menashia Medevil. One time there's a bicycle with Rav Yosef, the son of Rav Menashia Medevil, the Ovid Uvda Kavasi the Rav, and he did something like Rav. The Ikbid Shmuel. In other words, he acted like Rav when it said that the father's kedushin was the one that was that worked, right? And the girls was nothing because we'll say that she the father's because it was because she was not a Bogeris, right? So the Ikbid Shmuel, and Shmuel became angry. So and he said, "Oh, so everyone has a little bit of wisdom, right? So everyone can go by either by me or other cases. But you're so great, right? You have so much chachma, right? You got to go like Rav in this case. So you see, obviously Shmuel sort of took it personally that Rav Yosef went like Rav, right? If he said that's like pleading, if you said they didn't argue, so why was he so makbid? So Gemara says no. Maybe the case was also even in the case of when, even in the case of when she argued, right? We'll say that we'll say that hey, she's a Bogeris in front of us, and therefore and therefore her father's kedushin was nothing. And one second, and it says Ravashi. So remember Hilchos Kavasi the Shmuel, the Ravashi Hilchos Kavasi the Rav, and the Hilchos is Kavasi the Shmuel, who says that Harehi Bogeris Lefanenu, she's Bogeris now in front of us, therefore she must have been a Bogeris all day, and therefore her father's accepted the kedushin was nothing. Fine. Now, in Mishnah, we'll just get to a quick Mishnah, and we'll do a little bit of the Gemara. So, someone leaves him and his wife for many years, a couple of decades, Uba, and he comes back later on, and he comes back with his wife and kids. This is my wife from before. Remember when I got married, when you guys checked into my yichus, right? This is the wife that went with me in the Siyam. This is who she is, and these are her kids from me. You don't have to go ahead and bring a proof that she's miyaches, or even proof that the kids are miyaches, right? Because we'll assume that the kids belong to her. Mesa, if he says Mesa ve'elu baneha, let's say he comes back on himself and he says, okay, she died, but these are her sons. So maybe Raya al-Banim, you have to go ahead and bring proof that indeed that this woman is their mom in order to be miyaches the kids. You don't have to bring Raya in the woman because you already knew from before. So Isha and Asisi, let's say a guy who went off, he says, okay, I married a new woman while I was overseas, and and this is the woman here, now these are her kids. So maybe Raya Isha, you go ahead and bring a proof that this woman is miyaches, and then we trust that the kids belong to her. You don't have to go ahead and bring proof for the kids. And finally, Mesa, if he went with one wife, he says, okay, she died, Veilubanha, and these are her kids. So if he remarried a woman there, in other words, he went to Midasiyam, I got married to a woman there, she died over there, and these are her kids. So then, they have to go ahead and bring proof of who this woman was that he married in Midasiyam, and also the fact that these indeed are her kids. So questions the Gemara, so why do we always trust that the kids belong to her? So in other words, they're all young babies, and obviously the young babies follow her because they, follow their mother. So therefore, we can assume that they cling to their mother. Therefore, indeed, this woman is their mother. As long as the mother checks out to be miyaches, then these are kids. And similarly, we learn in the Bryce Tan Rabbanan, Isha Nasisi Medina Sayam. A guy says a married a woman Medina maybe Raya Isha. So you go ahead and bring the proof for her yichus for the woman. Then right, we don't have to bring a proof for the kids there from her. Well, maybe Raya Gedolim. However, you would have to go ahead and bring a proof for if the kids were Gedolim, if they were not clinging to her. Fine. If they're not clinging to her, they'd start Levi Raya. You don't have to go ahead and bring proof if they were clinging to her. But Medvar we're talking about Isha Achas, right? When in other words, let's say he comes back with one woman. If Nashim, but if he comes back with two women, then maybe Raya al Isha al Banim al Gedolim al But if he comes back with two women, then you have to go ahead and say, but two women, we can say that perhaps that one of them died and this one is raising the other one. So you have to bring two proof for who the women are and also who the kids are, whether they are Gedolim or Katanim. I will stop here. And we'll continue from there. All right, shkayach, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.